challenges.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us, all the early birds. Thanks to Sigma Group for hosting this panel, and today we are going to discuss the state of esports industry in the MENA region, most importantly the current challenges that it faces, and discuss some of the potential solutions that me and our experts see. And today with me I have Saeed Sharaf, the CEO and founder of Esports Middle East. I also have Abdallah Al Ghifari, the senior esports manager from Infinite Level MENA and Tencent Global Games. I have Wadih Sayah, an industry expert with a deep understanding of the overall industry of esports in the MENA region, and ARAVIND SWAMINATHAN, the co-founder and business director from Calyx. I hope you do enjoy the panel and we managed to share with you some important insights about the industry. Thanks. Mic check. Are we good? Yeah, should work fine. 1, 2. So one of the main questions and the conversations today in the industry, and some of you might heard in the news that Saudi Arabia is becoming one of the leading players in the esports industry in the MENA region. So I would like to ask, what are your thoughts and opinion on, do you think, how beneficial do you think the current KSA heavy investments in the MENA region are, and what would be the overall effect of it in our industry? And I think we'll just start one by one to do that for me. So Saeed, what would be your thoughts on it?
I think it's a very
Can we make the speakers louder, or is all fine?
I think it's a positive impact. Yet I think we need some time to understand if this will bring positive effect only on a nation like the Saudi, or it will pull, let's say, the carpet from other regions where it will attract investors to go to a certain nation like the Saudi. So I think we still need time to see how this acquisition will land during the 2023, and then maybe we can have a better vision. That's my 2 cents.
And I think because this is a regional competition, including Saudi, they represent the GCC, and it's, as always, GCC, there's a direct connection with the global infrastructure of esports. So as long as GCC is thriving, then the global esports could be thriving as well. And seeing what's happening in KSA as well as UAE and the government investment into esports is certainly very positive in my opinion, and I think we'll see the effect of that in the upcoming years. But looking at events like last year's Gamers 8 and this year as well, we had the PUBG Mobile World Invitational and had one of the biggest prize pools, and we've seen how the stage was lit up, attendance. We've seen how people enjoyed the experience and the attendance, and I think all of that contributes globally. So I think this is a foot in the right direction, so hopefully we see more of that in the upcoming years as well.
Yeah, so as you guys just mentioned, this is huge for us as a region, and specifically for KSA, because it's putting Riyadh as the hub of gaming, and now it's international thing, especially after the recent announcements of the investments of billions of dollars, basically. That is split into 2 categories. One is the esports section, of course, but also we need to keep in mind that when it comes to game development, this is also going to create a path for all the gaming enthusiasts that previously didn't have an opportunity to develop a game regionally, because previously you have to learn how to do that and hopefully get a job abroad, go outside the region. Now you have a lot of these opportunities here. And for the esports side of things, I think what they're doing is, to be honest, great. The production quality, the amount of events, the money even that is involved for the players, so they can take esports as a serious full-time job and not just I work during the day and I do esports thing at night. So this is to be honest awesome, and I hope it keeps going. But I think it's lacking one thing right now, which is kind of building the grassroots for that ecosystem and opening it up to the whole region, not just KSA. So I hope it would be in their strategy in the future term, because it makes sense at this stage that they focus on building KSA and then expand outside of it.
Yeah, so in addition to everyone else, I think one of the main points to mention is that they're changing the perception, right? For a long time, MENA was kind of ignored on a global stage, whether that's qualifiers, whether that's any other tournaments. But this is kind of changing that perception, kind of putting us in a global eye and a global map for a lot of publishers, gamers, teams, a lot of people coming in. And this perception change is very important, and it's a good thing that it's happening now. Better late than never, right? But just like Wadih said, I think they need to also focus not just as a Saudi focus, but as a MENA focus, mainly because they're adhering to the outside world, and the outside world still sees us all as one. Whether we're different countries, whether we're different regions, it doesn't matter. We're all under the MENA banner. So, there's a lot of opportunities that have developed and a lot of opportunities that have come. So, I'm looking forward to what greater things to come out of Saudi for sure.
All right, thank you, everyone. And just a following questions here. When you're saying that we definitely have a strong focus on KSA, and it's all definitely positive as far as the money is reaching the tournament organizers and the teams and the players and the overall industry ecosystem. But when we are discussing regional focus, do we mean some sort of a more systematic approach where there would be first a regional league that would, or maybe longer regional league that would be split into several seasons, so that we have a more systematic approach, and it's just that it's not only one-off yearly activation where teams earn big prize money, but then for the remaining of the year, the calendar of events isn't really catching up, and this creates some sort of an unbalanced state for the industry as general. Would you have anything to say to that?
Is it to me?
Any of you?
I get your question, and I think it's also important to note that most of these global competitions that happen, for example, in Saudi, there's usually some regional qualifiers happening at the same time. They qualify you to reach this global competition. And I think this is good. This is important that maybe it's not been highlighted much, but for example, speaking about DMWI and World Invitational last year, there was regional qualifiers to get through it. So it wasn't just direct invitations. Teams had to qualify through a regional competition. And like I mentioned, it's, you start with KSA and then you move to GCC and then it's Arabia and then it's MENA and then you reach the global. So I think once we have that structure going on, and we do have it already at PUBG Mobile, and I'm sure it is happening also in other games, this can be implemented everywhere, and we can see more focus happening on, starting with the national, then the regional, and then the global. And Wadih mentioned about the leagues and having importance of, giving so much focus on not just the pro level, but also the grassroots, which is something I think we'll discuss in a bit when we talk about the struggles. But this is already happening, and I can see it improving with time. But as long as we start in a national, then regional, then global way, then we are safe.
And that's great. I think all eyes are on the current developments in KSA and how the region benefits from the system that's being set up in terms of competitive leagues. Now, the next question would be, in the MENA region, what are the unique opportunities that we have that are supportive to regional key stakeholders and the new companies that are emerging in the market as well? Saeed, we can start in the same order.
Okay. I think what makes us unique is, first of all, that we have a big geographical area where all the people speak the same language, so we have a united language. More than 400 million people speak one language. And also the youth penetration is high, which makes esport or any other industry that relies on the youth have a future scaling. The other thing is that our mobile penetration and internet penetration in the region is high. So this also helps not only for casual gaming, but also in the future mobile gaming. And now we see most esport titles are moving mobile, from PUBG to Mobile Legends to Call of Duty and so on. So, and then we believe that the infrastructure will get only better. So we have it pretty good in the UAE, following by the other regions. But overall, when the infrastructure become better and we already have a youth population, we have one language and we have good market penetration, then this definitely makes us one of the fastest growing regions in the world.
So we have a major population, we have a single language that is one of the most well spoken in the world, and we have the infrastructure.
Look, from my side, I look at it also as the opportunities for businesses to open here. And at this stage, considering we're still at a relatively very early stage in our development as a region, there is a lot of gaps that can be filled. For example, I don't know if you've found, for example, many scouts in the region for talent, or many agents for the region for basically to find players. Currently, there isn't a set structure for a player to reach also tier 1 teams. Like, for example, if you sign with this agency, you know that they will connect you to a tier 1 team, to a tier 1 opportunity. So there is a lot of gaps that could be filled. Also, for example, I think we're not focusing enough on academies. There is also franchise leagues that are missing. I don't know if there is any currently in our region. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen one. So there is a lot of these things that could be added to our region that would add a lot of value. And I would encourage anyone that has a business idea that is kind of new, not this similar media agency type of work that everybody is doing right now, to go for it, because there is a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, a lot of the governments are now shifting towards esports and gaming, whether whether it's Dubai, whether it's Saudi, whether it's any other country for that matter of fact. We've seen the Moroccan Esports Federation pushing a lot, Bahrain Esports Federation, etc. So I think something to note also is that these opportunities, there are a lot, especially now that you get to work with these governments. And just like I think Wadih mentioned, we were a startup and it has been definitely easier to live here and kind of conduct business here. So for sure that there are these opportunities that can be grabbed, whether that's with these government bodies or separate federations that exist along the way. So I definitely agree with what you guys say in terms of opportunities.
All right, and now that we also touched on the struggles, the question and the main topic of the panel as well, so what do you think are the main struggles that the industry currently faces, and do you have any potential solutions to that too?
I will compare myself experience 10 years ago to now. So the first struggle we had back in the days is that you rely 100% on sponsorship in your operation. So having Calyx that can work with you with a moderate quality and also affordable fees was a big struggle. And I think this somehow remained the same because we still need to monetize everything from sponsors. So there is no yet sustainable solutions for you if you are a startup, I mean. The cost of creating a startup in terms of the legal fee is pretty high in the UAE. So you need like a minimum of 20,000 dirhams every year to spend. And if you compare it for the small teams, like the majority of the teams who earn a little bit, this is a good cost for them. So this is why you see most of them have personal accounts when the organizers send them the prize money and so on. Now, other struggles might be is that we have 22 countries with different nationalities and they don't have free movement with their visa. So you always need the host country to support you to come in and join. And this we see it even if you are a resident in the GCC and you want to move from one country to another. From my point, I believe those are the most things that need to find a solution in the near future to grow the grassroots level into an amateur one.
Yeah, I think I agree with Saeed, especially on the point about grassroots. So my main concern here is the lack of sustainability in leagues. For example, you see a lot of focus on the pro tournaments. Obviously, that's where the audience comes from, and most of the viewership, they want to watch the pro teams and the pro players. But the main issue is that there is no focus as well on the grassroots and building that infrastructure and help develop the growth of the players and the skills and so on. So I think if you do not cater to all divisions of an esports ecosystem, there could be an issue along the way. so that once you reach the top level, you are not fully prepared for what's to come, whether mentally or even skills. And I think that is an important thing to have in esports, seeing that I was a professional player before, so I understand the struggle to reach pro level. When I reached pro level and I didn't have a very good sustainable grassroots, it was when the success starts to come, you're a bit all over the place. You don't know what to do, how to handle such things. But now we see more interest coming into the grassroots, and I like that, and I see that in a lot of competitions. Another important thing we see in esports competition is content. There is no content. So much money is pumped into the tournament itself as a big prize pool, for example, but there is no content. You see nothing out of the tournament. You don't see the reactions of the players. You do not see how the venue is looking like. Even if it's online, you don't even get to explore how the studio looks like. And more investment on production as well. You just see a very basic production, and that gives us very low viewership. And without viewership, no one is going to be interested. If you look at two streams, one has 100 viewers, one has 1,000. You obviously want to go to the 1,000 because it's more audience, more people watching, and more interaction. So I think once we start focusing more on content, I would say put a lower price pool, but focus on content, because at the end you will have an amazing product to showcase for sponsors. So it's all one big circle, and I think once we cater to everything, we're going to have a very healthy ecosystem.
Look, I'd like to add on this point actually and continue with some of my points. But basically I feel that a lot of the players, teams, even organizers right now that are handling tournaments are not putting enough effort on content, as Tox was saying basically. And not just the content quality, but the creativity with the content that would lead to basically attracting more of the casual audience. Because right now, if you notice, over the years, some games have stagnated and there is no new input of eyeballs, basically. There is no new viewers. And then every community has reached like kind of its ceiling in a way. And if you think about it, the number of gamers in the region, I think currently is what I was reading some study that is 67 million and projected to reach 80 million. How do we get on tournaments like 10K and we're proud of that viewership out of that 60 million? You know what I mean? So this is something that we really need to tackle in a way. And I think this goes to my second point, which is the decision makers on these type of things. For me, for example, the easiest one to talk about, and I'm not just directing that conversation towards that specific type of entity, which is the publishers. I think the publishers, some of them are doing a great job, and you can see their games growing steadily. But some other publishers are just like we're here in MENA, and that's it, like as if it's gonna work out magically. And I truly believe I was trying to brainstorm what are the reasons that these publishers regionally they're not functioning well, but you see them internationally they're doing great, and it goes back to the team that is working here and the individuals that are here. Like generally I see when there is lack, the individuals that are working in these publishers are basically not part of the community they are working on. So basically if I am a Counter-Strike player and I go and work on League of Legends, let's say, I don't understand League of Legends, how am I gonna put my passion and I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to care and be accountable for what I'm doing in the community? I'm not. So this is something I think hopefully we can reach a balance where the publishers hire basically, of course, the experienced business level people, but at the same time mix them with community members that are probably still on the younger side of the business. They're still not very professional, but these guys know everything, like the ins and outs of their community. So I hope we can reach that, because once we have that, we'll be able to market better, make more relevant content, find better technical solutions. We have a lot of issues with the slots and the structure of the tournaments and the distribution regionally. So once we kind of mix and find that balance between professional and enthusiasts in the workspace, not just the gaming space, I think we'll reach a way better result.
I'd like to continue on that and just take bits and pieces from everyone, right? So one of the things is obviously publishers. Yes, they've been super supportive, but then again, every publisher has their own way of thinking, their own roadmaps. And I feel like there are a few of them doing it really well, and there are a few that take the easy way out, whether that's, go with the easiest tournament organizer, go with the lower tender, whatever it is. And that is a major issue, because then, yes, your product is done, but at what scale, at what level, at what quality, right? And I think over the span of the last 3 years, at least, you can see the difference in sort of quality, the difference in sort of understanding of this kind of things, and the way that each publisher that's in the region, at least, is reshaping and restructuring themselves, kind of adhere to this let's be better trend, right? So in terms of a struggle, I think publishers need to understand that you need to look long term, not just, hey, I'm trying to finish this one tournament, get it right, whatever it is, but a little more long term, especially because I believe in long term partnership. I hope the other panelists do, but I believe in long term partnerships, and it just works better for the long term because both of you see eye to eye with a certain goal in mind, right? That's one. The second thing being, I think brands, and I think we've all spoken about this a lot, which is that the brands in the region are just not aware, or what they want is, hey, there's a trend going on, which is gaming, esports. My kid plays it. Let's just jump in and it should be good. But they jump in with anyone and everyone, and they don't realize that they just made a mistake, and then they never come back. And when they don't come back, it affects the overall, I hate using the word, but ecosystem and the overall structure of everything, because everybody gets affected, not just the tournament organizers, the gamers, the players, the publishers, etc. Because then again, sponsorship is a huge value proposition when it comes to esports. So I think these are the two main struggles, I would say, in terms of esports in the MENA.
Thanks. And I think we've hit here a critical point where, to summarize, we say that there's a challenge of bringing in brands into our industry. We are lacking content. And I think that especially we're lacking player-focused and player-oriented content. That we haven't seen the storylines of the new emerging stars to follow, and the media profiles of players that is being built. And when we're discussing brands, I'm not sure whether it is the overall how well informed they are, or how low are the ROIs that we can provide them with the content that is currently available there. And I think if you can elaborate on the point that why are we currently missing the player-focused and player-oriented content, and why the current ROIs aren't that appealing for brands to enter, that would be great. And maybe Abdallah can share with us some success storylines, because we see that PUBG Mobile has been doing a fantastic job on documentaries, on exploring personalities and building profiles, and how you reached this point, and maybe you can share a few suggestions and advices to us as well.
Yeah, so at PUBG Mobile, we not only focus on the player, but also on the nationality and the region he represents. So that's why on social media, and we're talking about content, we do have two separate pages, one for Arabia and one for Africa. And then once a competition that is combining both, then we combine both. So there is not only the focus on the player, but also the region they represent. And one thing we always do in competitions is we highlight the top player. We also highlight the top assister. We highlight the top healer. So we highlight many things. And you mentioned the docu-series, which we did across many countries, including UAE, Iraq, KSA, and so on. And we showed the story and how these players got to be players and how they share their everyday routine. And I think that is important. You need at least one documentary showcasing the players of the region, creating heroes. This is our motto at PUBG Mobile. We want to create heroes. We want to put players' face on PUBG Mobile. So once you open the game, you see a player that's representing the region, and you're happy. You see someone that represents you. I wish that was back in my day when I was playing that well, but sadly I don't have that anymore. And I think once we have that in all other games, then we can have heroes in every publisher, in every game, and then you can have your Avengers super team.
Thanks. Anyone to add on it?
Yeah, I think also the TV have now a new appetite, and they are also giving exposure hours for all those players in the leagues. And this is something like this could be the future. Imagine listening to esport podcast on, let's say, on Dubai Radio, or going to your work, or having some talk show with influencers on NBC or whatever. I think we started to reach this level now. So the more content, of course, the more awareness, the better for the ecosystem. And one more thing also is that publishers started to realize the importance of influencers. So they started to hire them to stack viewership one over the other, so they can accumulate viewership and give their IP better audience and wider audience exposure. Perhaps, as ARAVIND said, that maybe the publishers need to start giving internship for esport players to come up, so they have a mix of those C-level executive with the background of esport and gaming, so they can come up with a better, let's say, indicators or KPIs or ROI that can be better. And also it will help them protect the integrity of the sponsorship that fails when you tell them you pay 1 million and you get this amount of viewership, and then they find it not worthy, and this will affect all the other organizers, let's say, or the players and so on.
All right, and as we are to wrap up quickly, just a few seconds to answer. So what's next, and how do you see esports in the MENA region within the next, not long time, but just a year or two?
Basically, I was thinking about that question when you said it, and it's a very interesting one. I hope I had more time to talk about it. But considering what's happening right now globally with the economy, I think we're at a point where the market is a bit overwhelmed with the amount of players in it. And I'm not talking esports players, but I'm talking like different entities in it. And we're headed in the short-term future, I think the market will be filtered, and some of the long-term strategic players are going to stay. And this will lead to a better development or better opportunities in the long term. So it's a bit negative in the short term, but it's for the better of the whole ecosystem, I think.
Yeah, I think what we can expect in the near future is, at least the next 2 years, I believe we'll see at least 3 major events that are global to happen in Saudi. Let's not deny it, but that's the truth. Gamers 8, being their own IP, and Gamers Without Borders being their own IP. I can expect 3 major titles to have 3 different majors in Saudi within the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's the way it's going. And just like Wadih mentioned, the economy globally isn't looking too strong right now, but the way that it's going is that these global IPs, these global players have that leeway to kind of come into Saudi, because Saudi is still working, like we discussed earlier, is still working towards changing their perception and growing their field by getting all the global teams and everyone inside. So,
thanks, and thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the panel. I think we have a few minutes for Q&A to follow, and if we do have any questions from the audience, open. Well, I think then we can wrap up, but I hope it was informative. And just to kind of summarize what we discussed here is that yes, MENA esports industry is at a solid growth. There is definitely a lot of attention to what has been happening in Saudi most lately, and we expect KSA to be one of the main driving markets for the esports industry in the MENA region. But there are a few challenges that most key players are facing today, which is the brands involvement and sponsorship packages that most key players in the MENA region in the esports industry are struggling to lock in. There is also lack of content, especially players oriented, to be able to build and share the storylines and build the stars. So if any of you in the audience are anyhow expert in delivering the message to brands and trying to be able to build the strategies to meet their KPIs, or expert in content production and developing the storylines, then most probably you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us, because we are involved in all of these points. So thank you everyone, and enjoy the conference, and once again thanks to Sigma for hosting us here.
A massive thank